The bridge of the Imperial cruiser Vexarian hummed with quiet control, every officer moving with the confidence of a force that ruled half the known galaxy. For centuries, the Galactic Empire had crushed rebellion after rebellion, conquered entire star systems, and imposed order through unmatched fleets of steel and plasma. To them, the universe was already theirs, every threat already calculated, every enemy already defeated. But that sense of control shattered the moment an impossible signal appeared on the edge of Imperial space. "Admiral, unidentified vessel emerging from warp," reported the sensor officer, his voice uncertain, almost hesitant. "Configuration, unknown. Size, smaller than a battleship, but—" He stopped, confusion creeping into his tone. "Energy readings off the charts." The Admiral leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Unknown ships didn't exist in Imperial territory. Every faction, every species was catalogued, monitored, contained. And yet there it was, an unregistered craft drifting quietly, its hull scorched but intact. It didn't match any known design, not even from the outer colonies. For the first time in years, the Admiral felt something cold move through his chest. The comms officer tried hailing the ship, cycling through every known frequency. No response. Then the static broke, just for a second, and a distorted voice came through. It wasn't alien. It wasn't mechanical. It was unmistakably human. That word alone, human, sent a ripple of unease through the crew. Humans were a myth, a half-forgotten legend from before the rise of the Empire. The ancient archives spoke of them as wanderers, innovators, and warriors who vanished long before the Empire's founding. No living officer had ever seen one. To most, they were just a story to scare cadets or inspire philosophers. And yet, here was proof, real and armed. "Ship identified," the AI intoned coldly. "Designation, UNS Valkyrie. Origin, Sol System." The name struck like a thunderclap across the bridge. Sol System, Earth, a place wiped from every galactic chart centuries ago, presumed dead, erased by time and war. The Admiral's hands tightened on the railing as the alien silence stretched. Then the Valkyrie moved. Its engines flared a deep blue, brighter than any Imperial drive core, and its hull began to unfold, panels sliding open to reveal weapon arrays that glowed with terrifying precision. Target locks flashed red across Imperial consoles. The Vexarians' shields adjusted instinctively, but they were already lagging. No one spoke now. Every officer stared at the impossible warship on the screen, their training faltering against the reality before them. "This can't be right," whispered one of the lieutenants. "Humans can't have this kind of power. They're supposed to be gone." The Admiral's voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed the truth. "They're not gone," he said quietly. "They've been waiting." The tactical alarms screamed to life, and the Valkyrie's weapon systems locked in with chilling precision. Across the Empire, fleets began scrambling to respond to the unknown threat from a forgotten world. And somewhere, deep in the dark void between stars, a human voice whispered through the static once more. "Galactic Empire detected. Targets acquired." Then the comms went dead. The silence after that transmission felt heavier than the void itself. On the bridge of the Vexarian, every heartbeat seemed too loud, every breath too sharp. The crew waited for orders, but the Admiral didn't speak right away. His eyes stayed fixed on the display, watching the strange human ship hold its position like a predator studying its prey. It wasn't firing yet, but the way it moved, smooth, deliberate, gave the impression that it could strike whenever it wished. "Stand by weapons," the Admiral finally said. His voice was low, but it carried authority. "Do not engage unless fired upon." No one argued. The Empire had faced countless species over the centuries, some fierce, some cunning. But nothing about this encounter felt familiar. The Valkyrie didn't broadcast demands, didn't send threats, didn't act like it feared anything. It was silent, patient, and confident. That was what truly scared them. The science officer pulled up the energy scans again, her fingers trembling slightly over the console. "Sir, the readings are unstable. Whatever power source that ship uses, it's not fusion or antimatter. It's something else. Something I can't even identify." The Admiral turned to her. "Could it be a prototype? A stolen design?" She shook her head. "No, Admiral. This isn't Imperial tech. It's older. Much older. The materials, some of them don't even match anything in our databases." A quiet dread settled over the room. Older technology that outclassed theirs? That made no sense. Unless humanity hadn't disappeared, they had evolved. Across the galaxy, whispers began spreading through command channels. Reports trickled in from outlying systems, strange signals, ghost ships appearing near abandoned colonies, and encrypted messages written in old human code. Historians were dragged from their archives, scrambling to find anything about the lost homeworld. What they found only deepened the mystery. Before the rise of the Galactic Empire, humans had been explorers. They expanded fast, too fast, reaching corners of space long before other civilizations even left their home planets. But then the records ended abruptly. Wars, cataclysms, maybe something worse. No one knew. The official story said humanity destroyed itself. The truth, it seemed, was far more complicated. Back on the Vexarian, the Admiral paced slowly, thoughts racing. If this ship was from Earth, then it meant humanity had survived somewhere beyond the reach of the Empire. And now they were back, with power that could rival the greatest Imperial fleets. But why now? Why reveal themselves after all this time? "Open a secure channel to Central Command," he ordered. "They need to see this." The comms officer nodded, sending the live feed. But as the transmission began, the Valkyrie shifted again, its hull panels rearranged, symbols glowing faintly across the metal surface, symbols written in an ancient Terran language. The Admiral didn't recognize the words, but the translator picked up fragments. "We warned you. We remember. This is not your galaxy. The bridge went cold." Then the Valkyrie moved, vanishing from Imperial sensors as if it had never existed. One second it was there, the next it was gone. No warp signature, no trace. Just empty space and a fleet of stunned officers staring at the void. "Track it!" the Admiral barked. "Find it!" But there was nothing to find. The human ship had disappeared completely. And yet, deep within the Vexarian systems, unnoticed by anyone on the bridge, a small encrypted file began to upload itself into the ship's database. Its name was simple: Project Earthrise. The file opened on its own, revealing coordinates far beyond Imperial borders. The humans hadn't just returned. They had sent a message. And somewhere, far away, the rest of humanity was already watching. The Imperial Council chamber was silent as the recording of the Valkyrie played for the fourth time. The holographic image hovered above the table, showing the sleek, dark hull of the human warship, the glowing patterns that had appeared moments before it vanished, and the final words that no one could forget. "We remember." The counselors sat in stunned disbelief. These were leaders who commanded entire star sectors, yet none dared to speak first. It wasn't just the existence of the ship that terrified them, it was the implication. The Empire had built its power on the ruins of old civilizations, claiming order where chaos once reigned. But if humanity had survived, then the foundation of that order was a lie. Finally, a voice broke the silence. "If they've been out there all this time," one counselor said, "then they've been watching us, studying us." Another leaned forward. "And waiting. The question is, for what?" Admiral Corvin, still fresh from his encounter aboard the Vexarian, stood before them. He looked older now, the weight of what he'd seen pressing down like gravity. "They didn't attack," he said quietly. "They could have destroyed us, but they didn't. That means this was a warning. The council erupted in hushed argument. Some demanded immediate retaliation, others called for diplomacy. A few suggested silence, to pretend the encounter never happened, to hide the truth from the rest of the galaxy. But deep down, they all knew it was too late. Word was already spreading through the lower fleets, through the outer colonies, through the citizens who whispered of the ghosts of Earth. Meanwhile, far from the Empire's core, a different story was unfolding. On a mining outpost near the Galactic rim, an engineer named Darren worked late in the control tower when the power grid flickered. He cursed under his breath and checked the diagnostics, but what he found wasn't a normal system glitch. A new data file had appeared on the main console, marked with the same tag that had infected the Vexarian, Project Earthrise. When he opened it, a map unfolded in glowing blue lines. It showed the outer systems, and somewhere beyond them, a dark region of space the Empire had long declared uninhabitable. A single star pulsed red at the center. Beside it, a single message appeared. Return what you stole. Darren frowned, not understanding. But before he could dig deeper, the file erased itself. The system rebooted, and every trace of it vanished. Back on the Vexarian, the crew worked tirelessly to decode fragments of the original transmission. Among the data recovered was a partial human voice log, distorted and old, like it had traveled through centuries to reach them. They took everything from us. They called it unity, but it was conquest. The Empire thinks we're gone. They were wrong. We remember who we were. The Admiral listened to it alone in his quarters, the faint echo of the voice looping through his mind. The words carried anger, but also sorrow. Humanity wasn't returning for power. They were returning for something lost. Across Imperial space, strange anomalies began to appear. Ships reported phantom readings, systems failing without cause, messages written in dead human languages showing up in military databases. And in every case, when investigators looked deeper, they found one consistent symbol, an old human insignia half buried under time and static. The Empire was beginning to realize this wasn't just one ship or one faction. It was something far larger. The humans weren't just back. They were everywhere, and they had a plan. The Imperial fleet hung in orbit above the Black Star, an unnatural void where light itself seemed to vanish. The coordinates from Project Earthrise had led them here, beyond mapped space, beyond the Empire's authority. For 3 days, no one had spoken of turning back, though every officer aboard the Vexarian could feel the weight of something vast and unseen pressing against their minds. The Admiral stood at the main viewport, staring into the darkness, knowing that whatever waited here was older and stronger than anything they had faced before. "Admiral," said the comms officer softly, "we're receiving a signal again. Same frequency as the Valkyrie. It's weak, but it's definitely human." The Admiral nodded. "Put it through." The speakers crackled, filling the bridge with static and whispers. At first, it was impossible to make out the words. Then a calm voice broke through, clear, steady, and unmistakably human. "You've come far enough," it said. "Turn back. The Sol Protectorate does not wish for war." The word sent a chill through the room. The crew exchanged uncertain glances. Sol Protectorate. No one had heard that name before. The Admiral's expression didn't change. "Identify yourself," he ordered. "This is Admiral Corvin of the Galactic Empire. We come in peace." A pause. Then the voice returned, colder this time. "Peace? You destroyed our colonies. You erased our history. You built your empire on our bones." The transmission cut off, and suddenly the darkness outside shifted. Dozens of shapes emerged from the black, sleek vessels gliding silently into view, each bearing the same sharp design as the Valkyrie. But these were larger, stronger, and they surrounded the Imperial fleet in a perfect formation. "Multiple contacts!" the tactical officer shouted. "Human warships! Their targeting systems are online!" Every alarm on the bridge came to life. The Vexarians' shields rose, engines roared, and battle stations activated. Yet the Admiral held his ground. "Do not fire," he said through clenched teeth. "Not yet." A new transmission appeared on screen. A human face, worn, scarred, but calm, looked out at them. The man's eyes were steady, filled with a kind of quiet fury that needed no words to explain itself. "You wanted to find us," he said. "Now you have." "Why hide?" the Admiral demanded. "Why return now?" The man didn't answer immediately. Instead, the image flickered, showing fragments of forgotten history. Cities burning under Imperial bombardment, human fleets torn apart, ancient colonies falling into silence. Then, the final image, a world scarred and abandoned, its blue oceans turned to ash. Earth. "You called it pacification," the man said. "We called it extinction, but we survived." The screens went dark. Then, without warning, every Imperial ship's systems began to fail. Engines flickering, weapons shutting down, sensors turning blind. It was as if an invisible hand had reached inside the fleet and pulled the power from its heart. "EMP interference?" someone shouted. "No! It's inside our systems!" The Admiral gripped the console, watching as the human ships powered up their weapons. Each one glowed with a light that seemed almost alive. He knew they weren't bluffing anymore. "Admiral," whispered the science officer, eyes wide. "They've hacked our entire command network. They can see everything, our fleets, our worlds." The bridge fell silent again. The humans had just proven what the Empire feared most. They were no longer the hunted, they were the hunters. Outside, the dark star pulsed once, sending ripples through space. The human fleet shifted into attack formation, every ship aligned with surgical precision. The Admiral took a deep breath. "All hands to battle readiness," he said quietly. The final moment of calm hung in the air, fragile and short-lived. The void trembled as the first human warship ignited its main cannon, its glow illuminating the fleet like the dawn of something unstoppable. And then, space itself seemed to hold its breath. The glow of the human cannon filled the bridge with a harsh white light, and then nothing. No explosion, no shockwave. The beam froze in mid-space, suspended like glass before shattering into 1,000 flickering fragments. The Imperial crew stared in confusion. The human fleet had fired, but something had stopped the shot. "Report!" the Admiral barked. The sensors went wild with static. "Unknown interference, sir. Something just intercepted the energy discharge. It's not coming from them or us." Outside, the darkness around the black star began to twist. Faint blue lines appeared, forming a massive circular pattern that grew wider by the second. The readings spiked so fast, the consoles struggled to keep up. The Admiral's voice hardened. "That's no weapon. That's a gateway." The human fleet suddenly broke formation, scattering away from the center of the pattern. Their comms came alive again, the same calm voice from before, this time edged with fear. "You need to get your ships out of there now. You don't understand what you've activated." The bridge fell silent. Even the humans sounded afraid. "What are you talking about?" the Admiral demanded. But the transmission was drowned out by a deep, resonant hum that vibrated through every hull in the fleet. The circle of blue light expanded into a vortex, pulling dust, debris, and even light itself into its swirling center. Whatever it wasn't a human weapon, and it wasn't natural. "Admiral, gravitational pull increasing. This thing's destabilizing space-time itself," shouted the science officer. "It's feeding on both our power cores." The realization hit like ice. The Vexarians' engines were losing energy faster than any known drain. The vortex was using them, all of them, as fuel. The Admiral turned toward the screen, where a single human ship still hovered near the event. The Valkyrie. Its captain appeared again, his face illuminated by the eerie light. "You shouldn't have come here," he said quietly. "This isn't human technology. It's older, something we found near the ruins of Earth. We were trying to contain it." Contain it? The words echoed across the bridge. The Empire had stumbled into something beyond both their understanding. The vortex flared brighter, and for a split second, the sensors registered a colossal silhouette forming inside it, vast, ancient, and mechanical. A structure the size of a moon, with lines of energy crawling across its surface like veins. "Impossible," whispered the science officer. "That's not a ship. That's a construct. A machine built to harvest stars." The Admiral stared in disbelief. If it was real, it meant someone, or something, had built it long before humans or the Empire ever existed. And now it was waking up. The human captain's voice cut through the chaos. "If it activates, neither of us survive. We're locking weapons on it. Help us or stay out of the way." The Admiral hesitated. The Empire had come seeking dominance, not alliance. But now, faced with something that could erase entire galaxies, the lines between friend and enemy blurred. "Open fire on the construct," he ordered. The fleet responded instantly, human and Imperial ships unleashing torrents of energy into the glowing vortex. The dark star flared, light bending around it as the construct began to move. It was slow but deliberate, like a creature awakening after endless sleep. Suddenly, the Valkyrie transmitted one last message. Coordinates, deep within the construct's heart. "There's a control core inside. That's the only way to shut it down. We're sending a boarding team. You can join us, if you want to live." The message ended, and before the Admiral could respond, the Valkyrie dove straight into the vortex, swallowed by the blinding light. The Vexarian trembled, alarms screaming. The vortex was expanding now, pulling the entire fleet closer. The Admiral stared into the storm, knowing there was no turning back. The humans had awakened something far worse than war, and the Empire had just followed them into the mouth of it. The Vexarian shuddered as it crossed the threshold of the vortex, its hull groaning under forces no engineer had ever prepared for. The stars outside vanished, replaced by a sea of shifting light. It felt as if they were falling through time itself. On the forward screen, flashes of human and Imperial ships appeared and vanished, drawn toward the massive structure at the center. A machine older than history, its metal surface glowing with veins of molten light. The Admiral gripped the railing as the ship broke through the storm. "Stabilize the core! Get us closer to those coordinates!" he ordered, his voice steady even as the deck trembled. Through the distortion they saw it, the Valkyrie, still intact, gliding toward a colossal opening in the construct's surface. Its engines flared, cutting through debris as it transmitted one final signal. "We've reached the core entrance. If you're coming, now's the time." Without hesitation, the Admiral nodded. "Follow them in." The Vexarian plunged forward, maneuvering alongside the human ship. As the massive gates of the construct opened, a blinding light engulfed both vessels, and then suddenly, there was silence. They had entered an inner chamber, a hollow sphere so vast it could hold a planet. In the center floated a pulsing crystal mass, beating like a heart. "That's it," whispered the science officer, "the control core." The comms flared to life again. The human captain's voice came through, calm but strained. "We're linked to the core. It's alive. It's not just a machine. It's aware." Before anyone could respond, the construct's heart began to change. Tendrils of energy lashed out, striking both ships, scanning them, learning from them. The Admiral watched in disbelief as Imperial and human systems merged on his console, fusing data as if the construct were forcing them to cooperate. "It's connecting us," the science officer said. "It's trying to understand what we are." Then a voice filled the bridge, not through the speakers, but directly in their minds, deep, ancient, and emotionless. "You are the children of my builders. You have forgotten your purpose. The Admiral felt his knees weaken. "What are you?" he asked aloud. "I am the Keeper of Sol," the voice answered, "created to preserve humanity's legacy, but the Empire erased what it was meant to protect. The truth struck harder than any weapon. The Empire's expansion, its conquests, it had all begun on the ashes of Earth. The humans had fled, but the Keeper remained, sleeping beneath their ruined world, waiting for the right signal to awaken. And now, both sides had triggered it. Suddenly, alarms blared. The construct's core began to overload. The Keeper was losing control. The Valkyrie's captain appeared on screen, urgency in his voice. "Admiral, it's going critical. We can override it from the inside, but it needs both ships' reactors linked together." There was no time to debate. "Do it!" the Admiral shouted. "We finish this together." The human and Imperial crews worked in unison, merging power systems, channeling everything into the core. The structure screamed, light flooding every surface. For a moment, it felt like the universe itself was tearing apart. Then came the silence. The light faded. The vortex collapsed. When the Vexarian systems came back online, the construct was gone. Only wreckage floated where the black star had been. The Admiral looked to the scanners. No sign of the Valkyrie. The humans had vanished once again. But just as the crew began to process what had happened, a faint signal pulsed through the comms. It was human in origin. Soft, fragmented, but clear enough to send chills through the room. "Transmission complete," it said. "Earth has received the signal. Humanity is coming home." The Admiral stood frozen, eyes on the silent void ahead. The battle was over, but something far greater had just begun. For a long time after the blast, the stars were silent. The Vexarian drifted among the wreckage, its hull scorched and engines barely functional. The crew moved through the ship in a daze, trying to understand what they had survived. The great construct was gone, the vortex sealed, and the gravitational storms had finally faded. What remained was only quiet space, and a question that no one could yet answer. Admiral Corvin stood by the forward viewport, looking out at the debris field where the Valkyrie had vanished. His reflection stared back at him, older, wearier. He had led the Empire's finest fleet into the unknown and come back with nothing but truth. The Empire's history, the human myth, the lies that shaped their civilization, all of it had been rewritten in a single moment. A faint transmission interrupted his thoughts. It was weak but steady, coming from somewhere beyond Imperial space. "This is the Sol Protectorate," the voice said. "To any surviving Imperial vessels, you are not our enemies. The cycle is over. The Keeper's signal has been sent. Stand down and return to your worlds. The past is done." The Admiral closed his eyes for a moment. Those words carried no threat, no bitterness, just finality. Humanity hadn't returned for revenge. They had come to wake something older, something that connected both species to the same origin. Across the Empire, the aftermath was immediate. Fleets withdrew from the outer sectors. The Council tried to suppress the reports, but the truth spread faster than they could contain it. People began asking questions. Who built the Empire? What really happened to Earth? And what did it mean that the Keeper called them all its children? The Admiral submitted his final report and left command soon after. Officially, he was retired. Unofficially, he couldn't let go of what he'd seen. He spent his remaining years tracing the faint echoes of the Valkyrie's last signal. Most called it obsession. He called it duty. He needed to know if they had made it, if the humans had truly found their way home. One night, while alone in the ship's observation bay, a soft light flickered on the console. A new signal, faint but familiar. It carried the same human encryption he'd seen before, the same rhythm as a heartbeat. He played it. "Admiral," the voice said, calm and distant. "We found Earth." He froze. The voice was the same human captain who'd once faced him through the storm. "It's not like it was," the message continued. "The planet sleeps, but it breathes again. The Keeper's final act was to restore what it could. Oceans are forming. The air is clearing. Life is returning. Maybe it's telling us to start over. Together this time. The transmission ended there, leaving only the soft hum of the engines. The Admiral looked out at the stars once more, a faint smile breaking through his exhaustion. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy didn't feel divided between empire and humanity. It felt shared, fragile, uncertain, but full of possibility. The humans had returned, not as conquerors, but as a reminder of what had been lost, and what could still be rebuilt. He whispered quietly into the silence, not expecting a reply. "Welcome home." Outside the viewport, a faint blue light flickered far off in the dark, just for a moment, like the heartbeat of a world awakening again. And then it was gone, leaving only the stars and the quiet promise of a new beginning.